Elizabeth Harrington, senior writer for the Washington Free Beacon, and Wendy Osefo, a political commentator and contributor for The Hill. Wendy, I mean, isn't there enough reason here to say he should probably, if he's out there on this book tour, answering questions to George Stephanopoulos, shouldn't he go answer questions in front of Congress?
Yeah, there is evidence there, and I think he sort of dug his own hole, so to speak, by bringing this up in the book. But then I think that also speaks to how he's very candid and honest. While this may raise some concern to individuals about what's going on with Loretta Lynch, it also speaks to some of the evidence in his book that has been corroborated by career officials. We have DNI Clapper saying that he was in the room when Donald Trump and his administration learned that there was Russian meddling, and instead of addressing it, they said, you know what, how can we spin this in our favor? So his book has a lot of salacious details. It has a lot of factual information. But what we have to understand here is that whether you're on the right or the left, whenever a hostile foreign power interferes with our government, you have to do something about it. And that's the nuts and bolts here.
Elizabeth, this is some serious doubt cast on Loretta Lynch when he refers to this something involving Lynch that he cryptically refers to as a development still unknown to the American public to this day.
Right. It's very cryptic and very dramatic language that Comey likes to use, but it's interesting because Philippe Reines, who was a Clinton aide at the State Department, also involved in the campaign, says this information wasn't secret to the public. It actually was reported in the Washington Post that Comey was duped by a fake email sent by Russian intelligence that accused Loretta Lynch of going easy on Clinton, which is actually pretty believable and probably why Comey believed it himself. But Philippe Reines says that Comey is not revealing this information because he was duped by this fake email, and that would have made him look bad, which is a running theme, I think, you see from the excerpts of this book, that Comey somehow always comes across looking out like the only honest guy in the room, the straight shooter, and it's just kind of laughable because all the scandals of leadership that happen on Comey's watch, always inserting himself into the spotlight, which is what he's doing with this book.
Perhaps it would be laughable if it wasn't the former director of the FBI. He also wrote this, Wendy, in the book. The unverified material would undoubtedly have been used by political opponents to cast serious doubt on the Attorney General's independence in connection with the Clinton investigation. This is giving Republicans a huge opportunity here, don't you think, to go on the offensive against Comey. Ronna McDaniel earlier called this publicity tour by Comey a self-serving attempt to make money and rehabilitate his own image.
Well, let's be honest here. Whether or not he put that excerpt in his book, the Republicans will go on the offensive about this book. But what we're seeing here is Comey, again, I consider this, he's shooting himself in the foot. And Trey Gowdy, mentioned this a little bit when he's saying, this information was known. It may not have been known to all of the American public, but there was elements of this in which people have been alluding to for a while. So this is where I have issues with the book about Comey, is that he has the opportunity to set forth some of the narrative that we've been hearing over the months and say this is actually what happened. But then he infuses this book with other elements in which brings into question, well, what are you trying to do here with this book? So I think that, the delivery may not be the best, but we still have to look at the facts within the book.
Elizabeth, he also gets personal here. After saying that he's unethical, untethered to the truth, he writes, he calls his leadership of the country ego-driven and about personal loyalty. But he really goes into some really odd personal attacks on the president, describing the president as shorter than he expected, with a too long tie and bright white half moons under his eyes that he suggests came from tanning goggles.
Right. Whatever happened to when they go low, we go high? Comey's getting down in the dirt with Trump, and he's, pretending that, or claiming that he's visiting the tanning bed, and he's saying, oh, I had to make a mental note of the size of his hands. I mean, who's scooping down low at this point? Who's making, I thought he was above all of this, behavior that we've heard so much from the left and pundits criticizing Trump for. I mean, Comey's doing it himself. I think that at the end of the day, the reason why Comey is doing this book is because he's ready for his close-up, which has been his MO his entire career. It's why he inserted himself into the Hillary Clinton investigation, making that unusual public statement. It's why he rushed to the bedside of John Ashcroft hospital bed during the Bush administration to paint himself as a straight shooter, a lifelong Republican, Republican, but he was willing to go to task with the Bush administration over a surveillance program, ironically, that his FBI used to spy on Carter Page. So it really, Comey's book, it's all about looking out for number one and serving himself.
Well, Wendy, that's certainly the goal, right? He wants people to run out and buy the book.
He does, but I'll say this. He is a lifelong Republican. So if we question Comey, we have to question the Republican Party.
He's not a Republican anymore, he says.
Oh, here we go.
Now you get into it. All right. Elizabeth, Wendy, thanks to both of you coming on this Friday morning. Thank you.